And here I was, black family, wearing a white uniform and didn't have proper foundation.
Wow.
So they did the best they could with hair and wardrobe, but when it came to makeup, it was a different circumstance. So that was the genesis of Vera Moore Cosmetics.
So this generation, many, and I know everybody says this about a new generation, but many think it's microwavable, it's instant, that there are shortcuts. I mean, you didn't get to Vera Moore Cosmetics easily. How many years did it really take?
Well, we started in 1979.
Wow.
Now, we had a hiatus for about 15 years because my mother was ill, but still I plowed through that. It was very, very difficult because it's like an elevator. Every floor is another challenge
Yes.
until you get to the penthouse, so to speak. But it took, and we're still trying. We're still struggling. We're still, because you have to be innovative. There's so many things. You have to stay on the cutting edge. There's so many new, and there's a lot of competition now. But we stand on our brand, and, people talk about us even when we're not in the room.
So how would you describe your brand?
It's specifically targeted for the woman of color, but it's for the woman that knows who she is.
Oh, I like that. For the woman who knows who she
And
is.
when she walks in the room, then the party starts.
Mhm.
She's a confident woman.
Yes, yes.
She's a woman that said, "I'm here. Let's start."
Yes.
I want to empower them. Internally.
Exactly.
Not just physically.
No, but that's an important point. You want to make sure you command the room.
Exactly.
Audrey Small, so I used
I
to
love
be
her.
at Ebony Fashion Fair. She was a member of my first church. And she said, when I come in, the party starts.
Oh, that sounds like Audrey.
And I said, oh, that's going to be my line. When
Yeah.
I come in, the party starts.
Yes,
And so that's important, to command the room, to know which rooms to enter and
Yes.
how to enter them. Who taught you?
My mother.
Mhm.
My mother, who only had a third grade education, so it
Mm.
wasn't about the PhD. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, she was just so wise. Christian family I grew up in, and she always told me, "Vera, yes, you can. No matter where you come from." We came from a small little town in Corona,
Mm.
family of 7, 5 boys, 1 sister. But my mother always taught me, you can do your skills, hone your skills, go to school, do the best you can, but you can do it. And that's why I always knew I could.
Exactly.
People
exactly.
saying now, you're good enough and you have, but I knew I was good. She taught me that.
Yes, yes. I just did this YouTube special,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a motivational moment. And I just talked about our ancestors, but specifically my mother. I always wear her beads when I'm traveling. These were her pearls and her ring. And I always like to have her with me. But she also taught me. She was elegant. She was
Yes.
gracious. When she walked in the room, and she was petite. She was about a size 10
Ugh.
and short. But when she walked in, Mrs. Johnson arrived. And so I remember walking by her one day, and I had these raggedy jeans. This was before they had the jeans that they'll cutting now with all the drag.
Ugh.
But I had these raggedy jeans, and she was like, "Where are you going?"
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you are not walking beside
Mhm,
me,
mhm.
and it really helped me put me in check. So, what were some of the lessons you learned from your mother?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's really funny. She'd make us sit up straight.
Mm.
Sit up straight, girl.
Yes.
And just that old-fashioned way. She was born in Georgia. Sit up straight and speak well.
Yes.
Don't be afraid. Look a person in the eye.
Yes.
She would tell us that. Look, I'm talking to you.
Exactly.
Are you hearing me? Are you listening?
Exactly.
Sit up straight. It was always sit up straight. She always wanted you to be proud of who you are
Yes.
in her
yes,
way.
Yes.
And as I said, and my father was the same way. He was a deacon of the church,
Mhm.
and he couldn't read or write. He learned to read from the Bible.
Wow.
He
Wow.
was a porter. So those skills, that foundation always stayed with me.
Exactly. So my mother was not only about speaking well from my mouth, but speak well of others.
Of course.
So every Sunday we would come to her house around her table. She was the matriarch not only of our family but our community, and she would not allow gossip at the table.
Amen. Amen.
She was like, "Nope.
Mm-mm.
In this house, we're going to speak well of people. At my table, while you eat my chicken and my ribs, you're going to speak well."
Yes.
And it really helped me a lot because I don't allow gossip in my life either. Speak well of people,
Yes.
or don't say anything at all. So now, what is Vera Moore Cosmetics working on at this time? What's your newest?
Well, we were in several stores, a major market, and they closed. So now we had to pivot, and we're on VeraMoreCosmetics.com. We pivoted online. So we've launched some new products, and we're very excited about them.
So you were in, but you were in drugstores.
Yeah.
Because I used to stop by. Was it Dwayne Reed?
It was Dwayne Reed and Walgreens. I was there for 11 years.
And you were at Macy's.
I was also in Macy's for a year.
So
And we
let's
had
talk-
our own store. We had a store in Green Acres Mall for 25 years.
Wow.
We integrated Green Acres Mall.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't talk about failing your way to success.
Amen.
What was one of your biggest failures, and what was one of your biggest highlights?
Well, I think one of my biggest failures, but I learned a lot from it.
Mm-hmm.
I was all over the place. I wasn't focused.
Say that one more time.
I was all over the place. I wasn't focused, and I
Mhm.
didn't have a business plan.
Okay.
You gotta have it.
Have to have
I mean,
it.
I gotta be honest now, because everybody's listening. I
Right.
didn't have one,
Okay.
but I got one sooner or later.
Yes.
But thank God I made it through.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have that roadmap for success,
Yes.
and you don't have to be all over the place. Stay focused. Figure out your target audience. You know,
mm-hmm.
and decide this is who you're catering to. That was, that was a bit. But my success was just having the guts to go into green. That was my biggest.
Having the guts.
The guts, the grit.
Oh, the guts.
To go into Green Acres Mall. First time in the history of Green Acres Mall. Never had a black tenant.
Wow.
And where did you get the audacity, Vera, to go into the mall and sit at the table with all these white men and say, I need to be here. I live in Laurelton. I shop here. I spend my money here. I need to be here. And I did.
So you had the guts, the grits, I call the gravitas,
Then, well,
and now you have the graciousness.
Well.
Because every time I see you, you're always generous and you're sharing, and you're always making sure others have, and you come brightly into the room. I mean, there's always a smile. I've never seen you cross. So if you had to do the formula for success, and you had to say A plus B plus C equals success, what's your A, what's your B, what's your C?
Well, you got to have a plan.
Okay, the plan.
You got to have the plan, and you got to know the culture.
Know the culture?
You got to nurture it.
Yes.
And well, that's more than ABC, but you got to be consistent.
Okay, I like
it.
that. Okay.
That's it. I don't know if that's the right,
Consistency-
but
no,
yeah.
that's good because you have the B for business plan, the
Mhm.
C for culture, and consistency, and so the A is to have it brings you access.
Yes, yes.
And that puts you at the table. So you're not asking for a seat at the table. You have a seat at the table.
Yes, but then you have to bring other people too.
Let's talk about that.
Sharing. I got that from my mom.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
when you get there, it's wonderful to be there. Celebrate the fact that they're
Mhm.
another C,
Mm-hmm.
but then bring others along, another B. So who do people say, I appreciate you? Do you have the thank yous that come for the doors you've opened?
Not initially. No.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay because you're not there for that.
Yes.
I think you're there to do what you're supposed to do, what God has put in your heart to do, that He's allowed you to do. I don't know anything else but share. Sometimes I think I share to a fault.
Mm.
Like
no,
you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's really not to a fault because you're supposed to do it. But I'm saying sometimes you don't always get the thank, but you're not looking for the thank. You're doing it because you know you want to have a legacy, not just for me and my daughter,
Yes.
as well, but for your children, to show that you can. Yes, you can. And that's why you get your foot in the door. That's why in Green Acres Mall, if I may tell you very quickly,
Yes.
they promised me the first floor. And I mortgaged my home to do that.
Mm.
Now, I'm not suggesting anybody
Let's
do that
talk
now.
about that. You mortgaged your home to get a seat at the table in Green
In
Acres
Green Acres
Mall.
Mall, yeah.
So people think it's easy. So they
No.
promised you the first floor. What happened?
They promised me the first floor. They had 3 years because they were renovating.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get the first floor. So I don't know. Maybe they thought that would be a deterrent. Maybe she's not coming in. Because remember, I said there's no diversity, no inclusion. So I
Right.
don't know what their real feelings were about. I'm
Mm.
telling you, like, can I actually
Yeah,
speak
sure.
candidly here?
You can speak candidly. That's
All right,
another
so I
C.
said that's not going to be. Oh.
I like alliteration. So celebration, candidness. Let's
Mhm.
talk about
so
it.
I didn't know if that was going to be a deterrent.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, now we don't have anything else, but all we have on the second floor is a food court. She's not going to go up in the food court. French fries and lipstick, not a great marriage. So show me the food court. So I went upstairs in the food court, and they had big stores, massive stores. And they showed me a bathroom. This is a true story. This was the bathroom of a major store. 10 by 10. That's how God works. I was only going to have 10 by 10 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I took it. My husband and I mirrored that store, gorgeous, on the second floor in the food court. For 10 years, I stayed up on the second floor. I would have gone on the roof to integrate the mall.
I love it.
It was about leveling the playing field. It was about opening the door,
Mm-hmm.
sitting at the table, making an opportunity for someone to follow me.
Yes.
So that's why I took it upstairs for 10
And
years.
people came to the food court and they came to this
And they
very-
passed by. Some kept going, and some was, oh my God, how'd you get in here, Vera? You know, and
Yes.
you also have to have a mindset of you can, because some people think, Vera, now come on, girl, how you going to get in Green Acres Mall? You know there ain't no black people in that mall.
Mm.
Well, somebody has to be a trailblazer.
Someone has to be a
the first.
trailblazer. Yes.
Tell that to Harriet Tubman, okay? She shoots you.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's talk about trailblazing, because I'm a trailblazer in particularly the African American church.
Yes.
And there are also casualties sometimes to trailblazing. What I had to learn was boundaries in terms of making sure that there was a beginning to my day and an end to my day and vacation.
Yeah.
So do you take some time off, and what are your boundaries?
I'm learning that now.
Okay.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. Entrepreneurship was like my baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I came from corporate world. I never worked for the corporate world.
Yes.
I worked for the federal government for 5 years because I had to. I wanted to save my money so I can take my music lessons. No, I'm being very
Yes,
serious. I
yes.
don't know anything about corporations,
Mm-hmm.
but no, I learned you can burn yourself out.
Very much so.
So you have to try to have a balance. Now, is there a balance? I don't know. You just have to make sure that I'm going to take these few minutes for me. I'm going to take this weekend for me. And that's what I've learned to do.
So one of my friends has this formula: 1 day a week, 1 week a month, 1 month a year. And that's his balance. And I started putting that into effect almost immediately. Otherwise, because I did burn out also in my 7th year of ministry, and I learned that I couldn't come back the same way. So my book, Too Blessed to Be Stressed, evolved out of that burnout in terms of how do you bounce back from things, or how do you avoid it. So now I take vacations in the summer. It's my favorite month. And so I make sure, now this is what happens. So people will send an email and say, I know you're on vacation, but if you know I'm on vacation, I'm not reading your email. I'm not going to read what's after the but, because you have now dishonored my boundary.
Yeah.
So a lot of people get upset about it, but you know what? At the end of the summer, I'm refreshed and I'm singing in the rave and I'm renewed. So I just encourage you to do that. I want to go back to the thank you for a bit, because a lot of people don't say thank you, but the people who choose to be mentored by me, I encourage them to write a thank you note.
Yes.
Not just a little email or text. Don't text me, but write a little card. If you could sign a check, if I give you a check and you could take the 2 minutes to sign the back of that check, you can take the 2 minutes to write a thank you note. And one of the things that happened for me when I was invited to Harvard was because I had given a thank you note. I had not gotten the position I applied for, which was a preaching position as professor, but I wrote the dean a thank you note. The next year, Harvard created what was called the President's Administrative Fellowship, which brought me in as an officer of Harvard, was even larger than what I applied for, and he said it was because I remembered the thank you note. So what are some things, some opportunities that have happened for you because you went back and said thank you, or because you just focused and paid a little more attention to someone?
Well, I'm going to tell you what really started me when I worked for the federal government for 5 years. Now, this was the opportunity of being appreciative. I worked for a lawyer. When I first went in, I was in a pool. And I took STEM because I knew I had to get a job out of high school.
Yes.
So I worked with this lawyer. His name was Melvin Greenberg. And there was just the lawyer and me, the secretary. And he knew I wanted to be in the theater. And I'd say, Mr. Greenberg, can I go audition on my lunchtime? He said, yeah. But now I had to go from Wall Street to Midtown.
Yes, for auditioning for.
Exactly. And then get back. So I ate my lunch on the train. The point I'm trying to make is, he said, Vera, will you come in a little early? Because I was always late. You can't get back from Wall Street to Midtown. I never said no. And he never said to me, you're late.
Right.
Because he knew that it was my passion. I wanted to be in the theater. This was just a job for on the way to becoming in the theater. But I always said yes. And whatever he asked me to do, I did. We build a relationship.
Let's talk about that. Relationship is so important, because you also were putting the time in a different way, so that it didn't look like you were robbing him of his time, which is important. But relationships, they last lifelong. They're good for sponsorship. They're good for opportunities. And so relationships are so, so important. But the word passion that you use. So you were an actor.
Yes.
In the first Black family on a soap opera.
Right.
And now full circle, you're in a movie that's going to appear very soon. And I thank you for opening the door for me to be
Relationships. Networking.
But so will that satisfy your passion, or do you think you'll start auditioning some more?
I think I'll audition some more. I didn't think about it then, but now that it's like riding a bike. I've been in the theater all my life.
Yes.
It's like riding a bike. You don't forget. And I'm just ecstatic.
Yes.
I'm all fired up. I'm very excited about it, and to have the part that I have, it just fits me. So I'm very happy about it, and I'm so glad you're in it.
I am too. So the movie, she said fired up, and the movie she's talking about is called Tried by Fire. We'll talk more about that, because we're going to have the director of that film as one of my future guests.
Oh, great.
So I'm so glad that you opened that door for me. What else are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about teaching these young girls how to take care of themselves, and that's why I do that.
Yes.
I do a lot of just mentoring, just talking to them nicely. Because I remember when I was in Green Acres, more ladies and young men used to come in looking for a job. I said, they're not going to hire you looking like that.
Right.
You better button up that blouse.
Yes.
You got to tie those shoes up. You got to pull up those pants. And they would come, Miss Moore, how do I look?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, you look better. Let me help you fill out the application.
Yes.
So I'm passionate about sharing what I've learned. Even though my mother and father weren't educated, they were wise. They had PhDs in wisdom, which you can't buy or learn.
Yes.
So I'm passionate about sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I was very blessed to have a wonderful family. Not everybody comes from the same environment.
Yes.
So I'm really passionate showing them they can. They were always worth it.
Yes.
They always have to know that you have value,
Mm-hmm.
and no one dictates the value.
Right. So my parents, my late parents, were sharecroppers in this generation.
Mm-hmm.
My father did not finish his high school education, but built a business that's still running 60 years later. In fact, it's the longest family-running business in New York City now, Black family business. So, and my mother became a teacher because there were only two opportunities: that nurse that you played, or become a teacher.
Yes.
And somehow she got out the fields and was able to do that. But I saw partnership, relationship between my parents,
Yeah.
but partnership. I see your husband with you all the time. What is real love? What does it take to have real love?
Space.
Say that again.
Space.
Mhm.
Space. Know your space, know his space, and then come together. I mean, I know it's a woman-owned business, a family. I couldn't have made it without my husband. He was there for me. Even when I was in the theater before I went into business, I traveled all over.
Yes.
And when I had my child, finally had Consuela, he was always there for me. He was my right arm. God just gave me that man for this particular time in my life. He
Yes.
knew that I needed. So I think in honesty and trust, integrity,
Yes.
communication, all those things create a wonderful marriage. And now, this is you asked me the question, with God as my center,
Yes. Yes.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's very, very important for me.
Mm-hmm.
So we've survived a lot of years.
A lot of years. And a lot of lessons are learned in the church. Not
Yeah.
just your relationship with God, but just how to speak publicly,
Yes.
how to look,
Yeah.
how to walk into that room. What other lessons did you learn from church?
Being on time. My mother said, no, we had to be on time.
Yes.
Get up in the morning, eat what she made. You know, she'd braid our hair at night. I remember sitting in between my mother's legs and she braiding our hair.
Yes.
So we had to be at church. We had to be at Sunday school on time.
Yes.
And listening. Being respectful to your elders.
Yes.
No talking back. No rolling your eye. You don't do that. No,
No,
none of that
no.
stuff. I don't know what's happening now.
Yes.
But I learned sharing
Mm-hmm.
and taking time. Just love.
Yes.
It was all about love then and caring for people. I remember my mom and dad, and we didn't have money. We had a garden.
Yes.
You know, we had a little garden. And they'd have the collard greens and Thanksgiving. They made baskets and take them to poor. Not that we weren't poor, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
She was always giving sweet potatoes, collard greens. Take that over to Susie. And I learned about. My mother didn't have a rolling pin. Go next door and get a rolling pin so I can do these business. I learned a lot
Yes. Yes.
about not being afraid to open up
Mm-hmm.
to people. Not everybody, but you have to not be afraid to open up to people that care. And you have to care about people.
You really do. You really do. I'm in the village of Sag Harbor, which you know, and you've been there. And so I love our elders. I've been doing a series actually on our elders, kind of a toast to our elders, because I love the wisdom. I love that they made it to where they are. And so I like to sit at their feet and listen and not talk all the time. So this is also a toast to our elders. Who in your life, I know your parents, but who else in your life, whether they're living or not here anymore, was a role model for you?
My aunt, my mother's sister.
Mm.
My mother, basically the same, but my mother's sister, Aunt Lois, she said, girl, go for it.
Mm.
You know, my mother would say, but in a different way.
Yes.
She said, you need anything? What you need?
Yes, yes, yes.
You need anything? Let me give you some.
Yes,
Like a
exactly.
little handkerchief tied with a knot or a black
Yes,
pocket.
yes.
You know, you go for it. I'm proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my very first dress, she worked at a zipper factory in Flushing.
Yes.
They made me my dress. I couldn't afford a dress.
Mm.
Gorgeous dress. When I backed the actor, where'd you get that dress? My aunt made it. I was always proud. I was never ashamed. And this is a young lady, me,
Mhm.
that went to school with a hole in her shoe,
Wow. And
with
people,
cardboard.
yeah, people don't know that.
Oh,
Sometimes
yes.
you have a hole in your shoe, put some cardboard
That's
in
what
there.
my mother did. And she said, I went to PS 143 in Corona,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a hole in my shoe. Don't worry, we're going to get you some shoes. We're going to get you some shoes Saturday.
Yes.
And I believed my mother. I trusted her.
Yes, yes.
If my mother said she was going to get me my shoes, and we did get shoes. She didn't have the money. I didn't know. We were on welfare, and I didn't know it.
Wow. So my grandmother was the one who made my clothes. She had a
See?
Singer sewing
We
machine.
had that.
And I didn't know that we called them stylists and things back then, but she styled us.
Mhm.
So that when we went to church, we had clothing as well. And we would spend summers what they called down south. At the homeland of my mother, and we'd spend the whole summer there. We didn't know we were poor either because the love was so
Exactly.
abundant, and so we would send money down south. But we had everything we needed because we had the love that we needed, and so I think that that's so important that you're pouring that back into this next generation. So Maya Angelou says, "Phenomenal." That's me. What would you How would you describe yourself? What word would describe you if you had to describe yourself?
One word.
One word.
Wow. Resilient.
Resilient. You bounce back.
Bounce back and don't give up. Because as soon as you give up, you miss the opportunities around the corner.
Yes.
Don't give up.
So-
I mean, look how long it's been. There's so much to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just pray that we keep strong and keep our health. You know,
Yes.
but there's so when
Because
you
health
look around.
is wealth.
Oh,
really.
health is wealth.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very much.
Health is wealth.
Now you're training another generation. Your daughter is in the business as well.
Yes.
So what's that like a mother-daughter dynamic trying to build a business?
Well, you know what? My daughter Consuela graduated from Howard University, came out and went to Christine Valmet. She became an esthetician. She's an esthetician for 13, 14 years.
And beautiful woman.
And you gotta have her on your show.
Yes.
It's not easy because we're mostly the same. We got big mouths. We're A people.
Yes.
You know, I have to now, Mom. Come on, listen. I'm telling you that's not. I'm learning to listen.
Yes.
Before I didn't listen.
Right.
Ma, that lipstick's not going. Ma, it'll sell.
Mm.
Just things, you know. So you have
Yes.
to learn to let go.
Ooh. See, yeah, my mother and I worked together one summer. I helped her with the family business, and then I was like, "Oh, I have to get out."
Get out of here.
But you two work so well together, and now you have a grandchild.
Yeah, my little grandbaby Bradley.
How is it watching another generation?
We are so blessed. Billy and I are so blessed seeing that baby. Bradley, he's 5 years old. He's just started camp. Matter of fact, this week. So we're excited. Now I see Consuela how she's raising. Even though she gave me a little flack sometimes, she's doing what I told her to do.
Oh yes, oh yes.
You know,
the same
the
phrases,
same
everything.
thing, everything. Now you know you're not supposed to do that. I say, Consuela, you know you're not supposed to. Same thing.
Yes.
So you see it. So if you stand, you know, do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Be courageous. It'll repeat itself. This is a legacy.
So America needs to do the right thing in many areas. What would be a word you would say for the healing of America? What would you say?
Ugh. Value the people that help build this country.
Say that again. Value the people who
That
help.
help build this country.
Mm-hmm.
Open up the doors. Seriously, I mean, we talk a good talk, but if you really want to know, they have to know who we are and what we've done. You know, appreciate us. Some people have said, you know, we love the country. Do you love us back?
Mm.
I mean, that's kind of heavy, but you
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
what I'm saying?
So love. We need to.
Yeah, we need to love. Well, value is love. When you
Mhm.
value somebody, you love them.
Mm.
So I think and it's coming. You know, but I get tired of saying I'm the first.
Yeah.
For Pete's sake, this is 22.
Yeah. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? All right, I was the first in Critical Small. First,
Mm.
that's what I mean.
I understand.
And it's fear.
Well, we're going to get past this. We have
No,
to.
we don't fear. They fear.
Yeah, but we have to get past this.
Well, we are.
Otherwise, the country implodes and not explodes. And
Yeah.
so I know many times walking up the Capitol steps where I had to take my oath,
Oh, wow.
and then to the State Department. But many times I'm standing on those steps and I'm like, our ancestors built this. And so there's a love and there's a fear at the same time. You're like, wow, we haven't really come as far since the people were on their knees banging and building these steps. But there's a word of hope always.
Yeah.
So this show and the series is about Black women leaders.
Mhm.
What would you say to Black women leaders? What's your word to them as we prepare to close this show?
I tell them, go for it.
Say it again.
Go for it. Really, I just mean that, you know, it's as simple as I can say it. I can say, you know, you got to hone your skills. I know you got to be prepared. When you step up there, you got to, but don't be afraid. Be unstoppable. Be fearless. And go in a room that you're not familiar with. Don't be afraid to go someplace that you don't know. Just sit there and learn. I've been many places that I didn't know.
And
I
learn.
walked into the room, didn't know what they were talking about, but I wanted to, and I sat there and I listened. Be a good listener.
I love it. Well, we thank you for being a good listener today and being with us. This is Live with Sujay, and the series is on Black women leaders. My first guest has been the inimitable Vera Moore of Vera Moore Cosmetics, the CEO of Found. But most of all, she's my friend. And we thank her last word.